terrifyingly human.
Who live off human blood.
Ghastly beyond belief.
This is Joan Crawford. For shocking suspense, I urge you to see Strait-Jacket.
Really, Mrs. Harvin, I'm just a country boy.
And I'm just a country girl.
Lucy Hart for the West. When she saw what she had done, she gave his girlfriend 41. Took an axe, took an axe, took an axe.
Wasn't just a sanatorium, was it? Was it? No! No, it wasn't! It was an asylum! And it was hell! 20 years of pure hell!
Thank God you're here, Michael. You got to stop her. She tried to kill me. She tried to kill us all. You got to stop her!
She's insane! She's insane! She's insane! She's insane! Leave me alone! Leave me alone! Leave me alone! I'm not guilty! I'm not guilty! I'm not guilty! I'm not! It was a mistake!
Don't reveal the surprise shock ending. Don't reveal the surprise shock ending. Don't reveal the surprise shock ending.
This is Don Franks from My Bloody Valentine, and you're listening to The Hysteria Continues.
And indeed you are. Welcome back. And that probably was one of the longest intros we've ever had, so apologies unless you're enjoying it. But yes, we are going back to the 1960s for a bit of proto-slasher. And I don't think there's any argument here that this is a proto-slasher. But we'll discuss it in full. William Castle's Strait-Jacket, starring Joan Crawford, for a head-rolling good time. So, yes, this is episode 292. And, yeah, well, looking forward to that. But before we do that, well, let's see how we're all getting on. So, Erik, how are you? Are you all warm and sticky where you are?
No. The Irish summer just keeps delivering its unpleasantness.
It's going to be, it's actually, it's warm and sticky here again. But when I go back to the UK next week, it's going to be about the same temperature there as it is here. So I'm taking the sunshine with me, Erik.
Oh, wow, you do that everywhere you go, Justin.
I've got such a sunny disposition, haven't I, Erik?
Yeah.
Even when you're gothing it up?
Yeah, even when you're gothing it up in the graveyard.
Exactly. The sun always shines on tombstones for me. So, Nathan, are you in fine fettle?
What? A fine kettle?
Fettle.
What's a fettle?
I don't know what fettle is. What is a fettle, Erik?
I don't know what the definition of a fettle is, but I'm familiar with the term fine fettle.
Does it mean, am I doing well?
Yes.
Yes, are you doing well, basically?
Oh, okay, yeah. I'm doing very well. Just working a lot.
Fettle means condition.
Yeah, my condition has improved, much like, Lucy's. But no, I'm doing fairly well. And I have a question for you overseas gents. Is the word bollocks a curse word, or is it just like a insulting term, but not necessarily a curse word?
I would say it is a curse word.
Yeah.
But it hasn't. Oh. It's not a particularly rude one.
No, it's a milder one, like shite.
It's not like, well, there's I won't say any of the ruder ones, obviously, because I don't want you to blush. So, Joseph, are you looking forward? Have you got a chopper behind your back?
I've got an office space behind my back.
Well, it could be deadly if you've seen Office Killer or The Temp or any of those kind of movies.
And I have.
Yeah, and who knows what could happen with a giant paperclip.
Mm-hmm.
Well, will we find it? Well, in this film, we're going to be finding out Joan Crawford with an axe several times in William Castle's Strait-Jacket. So looking forward to getting onto that. Before we do, let's have a little chat to see what we've been watching. Erik, have you seen anything since we last...
I have.
Oh!
I know. I've seen two whole things. First one is The Boogeyman, which is the 2023 film of that title. Well, we've had like the Uli Lommel one, and then we had the one produced by Sam Raimi in about 2005 or so. This is the one that's based on the Stephen King short story from the Night Shift collection, which also gave us such classics as The Mangler and Trucks, which became Maximum Overdrive, and The Lawnmower Man, Children of the Corn, etc. But apparently, I haven't read the short story, but apparently the short story is quite slender indeed, so that it needed a lot of expanding to get it to feature length. So this is it's kind of the film that reminded me most of it. It's very much a sort of generic horror film of our times. It's along the lines of Lights Out, I suppose, is its closest thing, because the boogeyman in the question doesn't like the light, so as long as you stay in a well-lit area, you are okay, which is weird because despite learning this rule halfway through the film, all the characters in the film still go down to the basement with just a sort of cigarette lighter to provide their source of light, which is a bit silly indeed. But I mean, it's not bad. It's directed by Rob Savage, who I think, I'm just looking here, I think he did Dashcam, yeah, and he did Host, which I haven't seen either. But yeah, he's directed this one. It's his first sort of big, I sort of suppose, blockbuster. So it's about a family whose the mother of the family has been killed recently in a car accident, and so the father is left raising his two daughters. One is I suppose late teens, and the other is maybe 8 or 9 years old, and they're dealing with this loss. And apparently the boogeyman is somebody who preys on people who are suffering, I suppose. So it's kind of a metaphor for grief in a way, and they could really have gone the elevated horror route and made it kind of pretentious, but thankfully they didn't. This is as commercial and slick as you're likely to see, and being so commercial, it's it has no rough edges. It's very I wouldn't say it was bland, because I did kind of enjoy it, but it's quite run-of-the-mill in a way. Some of the scares are very effective, but it's really, you have seen this all before. If you've seen anything like, as I said, Lights Out, or even like going back to something like Darkness Falls, anything that has, Mama, any of those that have a sort of scary being lurking in the shadows that you only get brief glimpses of throughout the film. So yeah, it has some effective jump scares and some really effective moments, but overall it's as I said, it's quite run of the mill. I'd be very surprised if there's anyone out there who loves this film, but it wouldn't surprise me if there are people who thought it was pretty decent, but not one they'd go back to. So has anyone seen this film?
I have a quick question, and Joseph might know the answer to this. You mentioned that it's directed by the guy who did Dashcam, right?
Yeah.
Joseph, is Dashcam the one with that really unlikable lead character?
That's the one, yes.
Because it was one of those situations where I actually liked the movie, but hated his main character.
This one, the characters are pretty likable. There's nothing terribly obnoxious about anyone in this film, so... if any one of us is going to get anything out of this film, I would reckon it's probably Nathan.
Yay.
Okay, so nobody else has seen that. So it's kind of a recommendation. It's
Hey, I've seen it.
Oh, have you? Sorry.
No, I'm just kidding. I've never seen it.
Okay.
I just wanted to put you on the spot, Eric.
Okay. Well, the other one I saw is another big blockbuster. It's the Meg 2, The Trench. So I enjoyed Meg 1, which of course is Jason Statham versus the Megalodon. In this one, they go down to the surface of the ocean, the floor of the ocean, and discover that there's an illegal mining setup down there. Ooh. And a big explosion creates a rift in the trench, which unleashes a number of megalodons. I think there's about 3 or 4 in it, and there's also a giant octopus and various kind of lizards that can walk on land, and amphibians, I suppose you'd call them. So it's very much a sci-fi channel movie masquerading as a big budget movie, so you have all the sci-fi movie trappings, but with proper special effects and proper actors. It's pretty entertaining. It's just under 2 hours, maybe a bit too long. I'd heard in some of the mainstream critics saying that it goes a bit crazy in the last half hour, so I was expecting something really absurd in the finale, but it just kind of does what I expected it to. I mean, the second half of the first half of the film is set on this undersea mining rig, and so it has a kind of The Abyss or one of those type of survival movie elements to it, and the Megs are very much in the background. And then the second half of the film takes place at a holiday resort, kind of like the Piranha movies, And it is kind of fun. I don't think it goes as insane as I thought it was going to go, but it was still entertaining. But as I said, it's basically Sharknado or Three-Headed Sharktopus or whatever, whatever kind of sci-fi shark movie you can think of, just with a big budget. But that's not necessarily a terribly bad thing. But yeah, Meg 2, I enjoyed it. Again, not sure it'd be something I'd return to though. So anyone seen Meg 2?
No, but it was directed by Ben Wheatley, wasn't it?
Yeah, this is the weird thing. It was directed by Ben Wheatley, the director of like Kill List and High Rise and A Field in England and all these kind of weird low, not mid-budget, I suppose, British horror films. And here he is doing this big blockbuster. And I thought there might be some of his fingerprints on it, but there isn't really. This could have been directed by anyone. It is really entertaining though.
So no one says, I want to cover my lips in brown lipstick.
Oh, was that one of his, wasn't it?
I think so, wasn't it?
Yeah, he did Sightseers.
Sightseers, yeah. I wanted you to shit in my hands and in my mouth and make me wear it as a black lipstick. Or brown lipstick even. Well, black lipstick if you've been drinking lots of Guinness.
Yes, well, we don't want any of your slip-ups verbally.
No slip-ups this week.
Thank you, Erik. Nathan, have you seen anything recently?
Oh.
Well, that's okay. Joseph, how about you?
Well, last night I actually decided to take a little bit of a break and watch a movie on Hulu called Alone at Night, and it used to be called 18 and Up. It's basically about a cam girl who she's staying at a friend's cabin after a breakup with her boyfriend, and it's a slasher movie. She's being stalked by a mass killer. Now, I intended to watch this, but I got about 5 minutes into it and I completely passed out from being so tired. So I'm going to try to finish that this weekend and hopefully talk about it on the next show. So other than that, no, I have nothing else to mention.
No problem. Well, let us know what that's like. I've seen a couple of newer things as well. I saw Cobweb, which has been doing the rounds.
Sounds like a goth movie.
It is. It's very much a goth movie. Well, it's not really. Well, it kind of is, I kind of guess. It's again, like you said, Erik, there's kind of, at the moment, there's this kind of run of movies which are effective, but kind of play it safe, I kind of guess, or play very much the formula, which of course is ironic for us to talk about, given that this is a slasher movie podcast. So we're all about the formula. So it's kind of what the formula is kind of now, I kind of guess. It's quite an effective movie, certainly for its first 2/3. It's about a little boy who lives with his strange kind of conservative, I kind of guess, kind of odd parents. And then he starts hearing voices coming from behind the wall in his bedroom. And it kind of leads to, or basically, a discovery of what that is. And it kind of unleashes all manner of destruction and evil. It's kind of quite a small film. It's beautifully shot, and it's got a couple of very, very effective scares. Like you mentioned in Boogeyman, there's a fantastic dream sequence in it, which is really, really effective. But the last third of the movie, it kind of goes kind of where it's de rigueur. You have to go where it's going to go, and by that I mean it's kind of all the kind of the subtlety goes out the window, and it's kind of balls to the wall, kind of like scares and jumps and everything flying about, kind of batshit crazy type thing, which I still enjoyed. It's quite as well done, but it's kind of, we've seen it all before. But the journey to get to that point and that last 15-20 minutes is very enjoyable. It's just kind of I do kind of want to see something new from it. But has any of you guys seen Cobweb?
No, I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it yet.
I ran into a spider web this morning when I was taking my dog out to use the bathroom, and I didn't even see it, so a spider landed on my shoulder, and I freaked the fuck out. But that's as close to a cobweb as I can get, was a spider web.
Did you William Shatner?
I did. I was like, ooh, just shaking, and something on the wing of the plane, or a spider on the blade of my shoulder.
That's a nod to Kingdom of the Spiders, in case you were wondering. But
yes. And the Twilight Zone, because of my dialogue there.
And what about you, Nathan?
I like spiders. I think they're really cool. Oh God, no! I'm sorry. Well, my mind was on another track. No, I have not seen Cobweb.
I like turtles.
So the other film I saw was The Last Voyage of the Demeter, which is the Dracula movie, which had like limited release overseas after bombing in the United States. It's kind of one of the Universal's kind of, they've been trying to get their kind of whole Universal monster franchise thing off the ground. And outside of the Invisible Man remake or redo from a few years ago, everything has kind of failed for them. Even like bringing Tom Cruise in for The Mummy, it didn't, a remake didn't work. And this, again, was a box office, not necessarily a disaster, but a big disappointment. So again, it kind of shows that they're Universal is struggling to get that kind of franchise of the Universal Monsters off the ground. I mean, the film itself is based on the very short section in Bram Stoker's Dracula's book about the captain's log of their voyage from Romania, wherever it is, to Whitby in England.
Justin, I have a quick question for you. Sorry. You watched that last night. Did they actually say Demeter or Demeter? I don't know which one it is.
I can't remember. I think it's Demeter. I can't remember. But it was, again, it's funny, not funny, but it's the kind of. I don't know if you've seen any trailers for this, because it's done really well. It looks beautiful. It looks very gothic, Erik. So you enjoy that.
Ooh. Is Susie in it?
Yeah, well, no, the Toya is. It's terrifying. But it's kind of all at sea, and it's all the storms. Everything is all black, the eternal blackness out there, and sea spray, and all that kind of stuff. And Dracula, it looks like this kind of cross between Nosferatu and this kind of bat kind of creature. And there's some very effective kind of ghoulish kind of scare sequences with him, around the boat, which are very effective. But overall, again, it kind of then gets into that action movie territory towards the end, which I guess it's just what modern audiences expect. And I don't hate it, but I don't know. It's kind of like the setup was so kind of elegant, for want of a better term. And it kind of adds a few characters in it. It's an Amblin Entertainment thing, so it's Steven Spielberg's fingerprints all over it. In so much they add a child character to it, but it still doesn't pull back from the kind of graphic violence, and it's kind of quite gory. I don't know. I was left a bit conflicted about this, so I'm not entirely sold on it, and I can see why it may have failed at the box office. But what about you guys? Any of you seen it?
I really want to see that. I think the idea of Dracula on a boat for a short segment of time is a fantastic idea. And I just had visions in my head of how it would play out, almost like a body count on a boat movie. But what I'm hearing is it kind of lulls in the middle, and then it just gets kind of bombastic at the end.
I kind of guess that's kind of fair to say. It's one of those films I wouldn't mind rewatching at some point, because I was really looking forward to seeing it, and I liked a lot of it. And I said that actually it's one of the few films that actually made Dracula really creepy and a little bit scary in places, whereas the last Dracula movie I saw was Nicolas Cage in Renfield, which was fantastic. I really enjoyed it, but obviously and he was actually a great Dracula, Nicolas Cage, but it's kind of, I'd never find Dracula particularly scary. So they did a good job with that. But yeah. So.
I like boats.
You like boats? Well, I'm glad.
Well, sooner or later, Erik, you're going to admit something that you don't like.
Uh-oh.
What?
It's someone who smells.
Susie?
Well, I wouldn't have done this until you said that. So any other background?
Toya is smelly.
I never said that. CGI.
CGI?
CGI what?
Computer generated audio. CGA.
CGA. Okay. If you believe that, Erik. But the people heard it real time last time on the last podcast, so it will go down in history. So you like shipwrecks as well?
Why? Where are you going with this?
Like going down.
How rude.
Let's get on to Strait-Jacket, shall we?
I like the way nobody defended my honor there.
What honor?
I think at least one of us might need a Strait-Jacket after this episode.
This is Joan Crawford. I urge you to see my new motion picture Strait-Jacket from the beginning. Don't reveal the surprise shock ending. Don't reveal the surprise shock ending. Don't reveal the surprise shock ending.
After a 20-year stay at an asylum for a double murder, a mother returns to her estranged daughter, where suspicions arise about her behaviour. So yes, that's not actually what happened when Erik went back to visit family. No, this is the not the follow-up exactly. Well, it's kind of William Castle's follow-up to Homicidal from a few years before, which of course was his take on the success of Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. And Strait-Jacket was also written by Robert Bloch, who of course wrote the novel that Psycho was based on. And as you probably guess by all the other things, Joan Crawford stars in this, of course, had a massive career resurgence with her old nemesis Betty Davis, with Whatever Happened to Baby Jane in 1962. And they were to be reteamed in the next year in Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte, which was another kind of more of a kind of proto-slasher. Whatever Happened to Baby Jane isn't really a proto-slasher at all, but Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte kind of is, and Strait-Jacket definitely is. It's kind of up in the ante in the kind of the grue and the shock department from Psycho. Obviously not as an effective film as Psycho, but certainly from a spectacle point of view, Strait-Jacket, I imagine for audiences in 1964 would have been a thrill a minute. In fact, William Castle, the film again was a big success for him, and he quipped in a newspaper article I found. He said that the film had made over $5 million in rentals, which I haven't looked at that in inflation, but obviously it was a big success. And he said it was $1 million per severed head, sort of joking. So William Castle, if you know anything about William Castle, is very, his films, I'm sure we'll talk a bit more about them, but it was very gimmick laced. And Strait-Jacket was no difference. Now, the difference was with Strait-Jacket is that he has Joan Crawford. Of course, Joan Crawford was the one-time queen of Hollywood, who her career had started back in the 1930s, and she'd been in the kind of jazz baby type films all the way through films like Grand Hotel, and then became box office poison, and then was her career was reignited with Mildred Pierce in the 1940s, and was still popular through the 1950s, and then the lull through the late 50s and early 60s until her career was reinvigorated by Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, which kind of gave birth to what has been termed hagsploitation, which is kind of a kind of strange name for a series of films where Hollywood actresses from the golden era of Hollywood had a career renaissance of some kind, playing caricatures or kind of haggard kind of versions of themselves or whatever in horror films. And many, I'm going to talk a little bit more about them. But the irony, of course, with Joan Crawford is that Joan Crawford always looks like Joan Crawford. And the first time you see her in Strait-Jacket is the flashback sequence where she gets off a train and she gets off a train at an empty train station, looking every inch a Hollywood star, and she kind of looks around for an audience at this train station, and it's just like she all the way through the film, Joan Crawford commands the film. She gives a fantastic performance. It's very campy and fun and very over the top, but it's very, if you're talking about being committed and not just for a Strait-Jacket, but being committed to performance, then Joan Crawford, as some critics have said, should have won an Oscar for this if it wasn't a horror movie. So the basic premise of the movie is that Lucy Harbin, played by Joan Crawford, had come back and found her husband, played by the very first screen role of Lee Majors, who of course went on to many things.
Lee Majors is hot. That's a Friends reference.
Hi, Marge. I'm Lee Majors. Won't you fly away with me?
That's the noise that he makes.
I did read that he got the thing because Rock Hudson was his best friend and recommended him for us. So I don't know if Lee Majors was that kind of friend. Anyway, I'm not going to get into libelous accusations like Erik would. But yeah, she murders her husband and his lover with an axe, which her daughter witnesses. So she spends the next 2 decades in an asylum. And then she's released and she comes back and she's very kind of like matronly. She's kind of dressing like a grandma, basically, a grandmother. And she comes back to the farmhouse where her brother lives with his wife and her now adult daughter, who is a sculptress. And then her daughter takes her shopping and then manages to buy almost exactly the same clothes and a wig that made her look like she did 20 years ago. I don't know if you can see where this is going, but possibly not the most difficult to work out who done it in the world. But I do love the fact that her daughter, played by Diane Baker, when she says, Joan Crawford saying, I don't know about the wig, and she said, everyone's wearing them. So I'm not sure if that was true. Although my mother had loads of wigs in the 70s, so who knows. But
did you try them on?
No, Eric.
I bet you did. And sang to Shirley Bassey records.
Yeah, well, in retrospect, I should have done, but I didn't take the opportunity. But I'm not going to explain the whole plot, but all I'm going to say is that somebody who looks very much like Joan Crawford in a new wig has a big chopper and goes around chopping off heads of various people connected to the farm and to her daughter and her new boyfriend. So the mystery is Joan Crawford, has she gone psychotic again? Has she had a psychotic relapse? Or is someone else pretending to be her, and for what reason? So, Strait-Jacket, I just think it's just such a fun movie. I mean, it has that, just in the way Psycho had that blueprint for the slasher movie, this kind of builds on it to some degree, because you have kind of show-stopping decapitation scenes like every 20 minutes or so. Not that they're, they're not going to give Tom Savini any sleepless nights, and some of them aren't, some of them in silhouette and stuff, but it kind of has that template of that kind of I kind of guess kind of like a Friday the 13th. It's kind of like the spectacle, the horror as spectacle, and Joan Crawford is playing this dual role as Lucy Harbin, who is she goes from dreary to trampy in a turn of an eye, and she's always fun, and very over the top, but very entertaining. It's a great party movie. So Strait-Jacket. So I'm interested to hear what you guys thought of it. So Nathan, did you like Strait-Jacket?
Oh, I absolutely adored Strait-Jacket. I'd seen it before. Funny enough, what actually introduced me to Strait-Jacket was Serial Mom. And at the time, I had to look up and see what that movie was because, it looked like it was good. So I finally found out and tracked it down at one of my local video stores. And yeah, I watched it, loved it. Even though even though I'm terrible at guessing who the killers are, I actually guessed this one correctly. I loved the axe murders. I love the axe as a weapon. I particularly thought that the final 10 minutes or so with Michael's parents was really well done. I felt there was a lot of tension and suspense built up there, like when he went to the closet and the clothes just swooshed back, and then of course later when the mom turns around and out of the closet and she's behind the door in that scene, I thought that was great. And the killer's getup is really scary. I mean, that mask is extremely creepy. I guess, we are going to spoil it like we always do, and I wanted to mention something else, so I'm going to go ahead and spoil it here. The axe murderer turns out to be her daughter, who witnessed the original axe killings. The reason I brought that up is because I just really wanted to talk about the daughter's performance in the finale. I mean, Joan Crawford is fantastic in the movie. I mean, she's so watchable. I know that there's a lot of rumors that she wasn't the nicest person, but I mean, I don't know. I've obviously never met her, but I think that she is an excellent actress, and I loved watching her performance in the film. But I just love the end with the daughter, hugging the mask of her mother. At one moment she's hugging it, and then she's punching it in the face. And I just thought that was so awesome. I thought it was a great performance for me. I also wanted to say that I found the drama behind the scenes of this movie to be just as entertaining as the movie itself. So I'm actually really looking forward to the background section. Cool.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Nathan. I'm glad you got some background. That'll be a novelty.
Shade.
So, Erik, what about you? Was this a first-time watch?
this was very much a first time watch for me. I'm not usually drawn to black and white 60s movies, which is probably sacrilege to some, but it's just not my cup of tea usually. So I approached the film thinking, this is probably going to be really old fashioned and probably not work for a first time watch in 2023. But I was surprised at how contemporary I suppose some of it was. I mean, you said that the axe murders are, whilst not overtly graphic, I think they work quite well and are quite effective. I think the black and white photography probably helps the special effects. I'm sure if the film was in colour, they'd look incredibly hokey, but I think they get away with it in black and white. I loved the opening scene with Joan Crawford killing Lee Majors and her insanely jangly jewellery, which we hear jangling so much throughout the film. I thought it should have got its own credit. The film is, as I was expecting, the film is really sort of melodramatic, and the score along with it is very sort of old fashioned as well. It's certainly very different to the types of scores we normally get in the horror films that we cover. And the film as a whole has a real stagey quality to it, but I have to say I did enjoy it. I was surprised at, as I said, how I suppose that the amount of decapitations I was not expecting for a 1964 black and white movie starring Joan Crawford. Like Nathan, I thought I was really proud of myself when I deduced who the killer was quite early on. I mean, I got bad vibes off that daughter from the very start. As I said, she was giving me, she was serving me Meg Tilly realness in Psycho 2. So that, there was no surprises when the denouement happens. But I can imagine that in 1964, to an audience who hadn't seen a million giallo or slasher movies, that twist probably, knocked them sideways. I loved the happy birthday to me element at the end with the peeling off the mask of Joan Crawford. Now that mask that's trying to make her look like Joan Crawford is really quite effective. Again, the black and white photography probably does it a lot of favors, but it's really quite a convincing mask, I think. Because at the start of that scene where we see the two Joan Crawfords, for want of a better word, battling against each other in the bedroom, I thought it was, I thought they were just going to show like one Joan Crawford at a time in frame, never the two at the same time. When they did, and I thought, how did they do that? They didn't have the kind of special effects to have the actress playing two parts in the same scene. And then it peels off the mask, and I was just, as I said, surprised at how effective the Joan Crawford mask was. Now, I don't know if it had proper eye holes in it, so I don't know how she was supposed to see where she was swinging the axe, but that's a matter for another time, I think. The giallo-like element to the ending really surprised me as well. I loved just how ludicrous it got towards the end, because again, that's not something I was expecting. I thought it was going to sort of play it very safe. I was very surprised. Old-fashioned in places, but also really quite contemporary and entertaining in others. It's like a black and white sort of Scooby-Doo, and it's even complete with a hidden tape recorder playing nursery rhymes that taunt Lucy, which is really like a Scooby-Doo element to have. And the lifelike severed heads as well in the bed, although they're explained as being sculptures by Lucy. It's quite handy that she's a sculptress. She's kind of like, is it Alfred in Happy Birthday to Me? I'm imagining, actually, there's a lot of Happy Birthday to Me in this film, so I'm imagining it might have been a huge influence on them. I was genuinely surprised at how much I enjoyed this film, because, as I said, I'm not usually drawn to 60s movies. Late 60s maybe, but early 60s and in black and white, you have to really convince me, and this really did. So yeah, thumbs up from me.
Excellent. Okay, I'm glad to hear it. So thank you. And Joseph, how about you?
Oh, yes. I love Strait-Jacket. I love it. It's probably one of my favorites of the biddy horror genre. In fact, one of my prized possessions is a near mint Betamax copy that I found at a thrift store for $1. I cherish that tape. But I was glancing around at some of the storied kind of critical reception from that time period. And if there's one thing that never really changed from the time it took, proto-slashers to become slashers, I think it was this this almost universal insistence on lambasting the violence and paying no mind to the other attributes of the movie. I think Strait-Jacket, I think it behaves as William Castle intended. I mean, it's a roller coaster ride from beginning to end, but it also makes a stop or two along the way into, kind of pathos and dark humor. I mean, I absolutely love how the film kind of circles back on itself with this sort of demented irony. I mean, that sequence just after the killer is revealed where we have the two lead characters. I mean, they're physically separated by a door, but they share the same collapsed mental state. I think that was a brilliant kind of masterstroke of a finale, and it went a long way to showing that, this may have been more than just a simple axe murder movie. But those axe murders, they do work as intended, and for the time period, they, like Erik said, they pop in a way that certainly wasn't commonplace back then. I mean, this is Proto-Slasher 101 when we get a double bludgeoning opening axe murder, and George Kennedy, he's later decapitated in one of the film's money shots. As goofy as it may look today, I still really liked it. And, like Erik said, again, that rubber unmasking finale and stalking sequence through that palatial estate would certainly go a long way into inspiring the sort of Scooby-Doo theatrics of something like Happy Birthday to Me. I mean, it's all very ridiculous and fun. And Joan Crawford, I mean, I couldn't imagine anyone else playing Lucy. I love that all it takes for her to slip back into this kind of dangerous state of mind is a cocktail dress, some noisy bracelets, and a wig. But, as great as she plays unhinged or, possibly gaslit taking the killer's identity into question, she also plays sympathetic very well. She gets solid support from the rest of the cast, but I think she runs the show absolutely. The film also has a playful sense of humor about it. I mean, it's both kind of playful and morbid, and we get great examples of that with how matter-of-factly people look at Lucy's murderous past as if she forgot to purchase a loaf of bread during a grocery run or something. I mean, they're just so like, well, Lucy murdered somebody, oh well. We even get that Psycho-esque kind of expositional denouement that tells us everything we already know, but it uses its words carefully to put a real spotlight on the dark irony. And that coda with the decapitated Columbia statue in the credits is the type of Easter egg to kind of drive that point home. I love that. So yeah, what else can I say? It's the kind of melodrama that kind of rises above melodrama because it has a certain comical undercurrent and a game cast, and it zips along just like a roller coaster should. And, I think this is kind of unfairly maligned as a bad movie. If you read some of the critical reception, I mean, people were comparing this to some of the worst movies ever made, and I do not think it is at all. I'd even go so far as to say it's one of my all-time favorites. So, great choice, Justin. Thumbs way up from me.
Excellent. Okay. Well, we haven't had such a rave since the last Susie album came out. Erik, contain yourself, please.
I got a quick question for you guys, though. Do you think that Carol and Michael's relationship continued?
Only if it was hysterical.
Yeah, well, she was off to the asylum, wasn't she? And Joan, Lucy, was going to go and join her.
That's true. He might, wait for her, though.
Yeah, although I kind of think his mother wouldn't be so keen on their union.
Yeah.
She wasn't very keen on it to start off with.
Yeah, she didn't like the whole thing right from the get-go, so...
And then they just chopped. Then her daughter-in-law, just proposed daughter-in-law, just chopped off her husband's head. So that probably wouldn't go very well. I wouldn't thought.
I think like the George Kennedy character makes that mistake, same mistake as some of the characters in The Hand That Rocks the Cradle that we discussed in a recent podcast for Patreon, where he sort of lets the killer know, or he lets them know that he knows something's up. Why do you do that? You don't say that to a killer. You're going to be killed, and that's exactly what happens to him.
I'll tell you one leading off that, just as we go into background, but there's one thing I was just going to mention is that there is a kind of a making of Strait-Jacket, which came out in the Shout Factory release some year from 2002, I think, quite a long time ago. But it actually shows some background footage, and it shows a slightly gorier version of George Kennedy's decapitation. So it still looks as hokey, but you actually see the stump.
Yeah, and I've seen that clip, and you actually see that it's Joan Crawford's face character is doing it.
It's actually Joan Crawford doing it, or her Joan's character, isn't it? So it did make me wonder whether or not that was, what that was, whether or not there was a change in the script, or whether or not, just like in Happy Birthday to Me, when they kind of they changed the killer's identity halfway through filming. I don't know, but it just seemed, I wonder why Joan Crawford, unless she just really did want to get her hands on the big chopper. But shall we go into some background? And as young Nathan is going to wow us, take it away, Nathan. What have you got for us on Strait-Jacket?
Well, I mean, originally Joan Blondell was going to play the main role of Lucy. And there's conflicting stories as to why she didn't end up doing the film. Officially what I saw was that she had an accident and it made her unable to continue with it. But I also found a very interesting interview with Anne Helm, who was going to play Carol originally, before Diane Baker came on board. And she had a lot to say, and I don't want to get sued or anything, but I just wanted to say that the drama seemed very interesting. I mean, basically what she says is that Joan Crawford kind of made her life hell on the set until, like the whole thing didn't work out. She kind of that, and she also mentions that Joan Blondell had like a breakdown because she didn't like the part got taken away from her. So I'm like, I mean, it's obviously a he said, she said, kind of a situation. But I've never seen anyone be this candid in an interview about their co-stars, or potential co-stars, I guess. It was very blunt, and I thought that was fascinating.
Well, wasn't it? I did read or saw about that, and wasn't she kind of a little bit more kind of voluptuous, sort of a bit more, as in the actress that played her daughter eventually was. I think Joan Crawford had played with her in another film before, but I wouldn't say she was plain, but I think the kind of, from what I could take, is Joan Crawford didn't want somebody who was a younger, more beautiful version of her, or somebody who was like, that wanted someone who's a bit plainer, for want of a better thing. And also that Joan Blondell thing was interesting, because I read that she'd gone had to have 70 stitches after going through a plate glass door. And I do wonder if where Joan Crawford was at that moment.
That's salacious, Justin.
Did you see the other thing I saw? They said that, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself, but they said, just leading on from that, the original thing was Joan Blondell was meant to commit crimes wearing an inflatable fat suit.
What?
Which would have, so presumably the killer would have been fat. I don't know. Maybe she was fat and then became thin or something. But if only Joan Blondell had been wearing that inflatable fat suit when she went through that plate glass window. Who knows what went on behind the scenes? But do you have anything else for us, Nathan?
No, that's all I got this time around. But hey, it wasn't from IMDb or Wikipedia, Justin.
I'm very proud of you, Nathan. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, Joseph, do you have anything for us?
No, unfortunately, I do not. It's all you guys this week.
Eric?
A sequel came out called Gay Cardigan.
Is that your joke of the week, Eric?
No. You're getting bonus material. Aren't you lucky? Gay Cardigan, Strait-Jacket? No? Okay.
I like your liberal use of the word bonus there, Eric.
How rude. How rude. Director William Castle met Joan Crawford at a party.
Okay.
Wow.
What are you reading this off, Eric?
I'm just making... I'm reading it from my notes.
Do you have anything else for us, Eric?
No.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Well, we've got your joke of the week to look forward to. Okay, well, I've got a few other bits. The reviews of it, as Joseph mentioned, were a bit sniffy. But one thing I thought was quite interesting was that the film, from what I've read, wasn't taken particularly seriously. I think we kind of always got a tendency to kind of presume that when we watch films and we think, oh, the audiences would have taken this incredibly seriously and thought this was, high drama and been taken, but at the time, this was seen by quite a few people in the audience as kind of camp, fun camp. Especially hot on the heels of Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, which was a real cause célèbre. And so the LA Times led with the title, with the strapline, "Strait-Jacket brings shrieks, ... of laughter." It says, "Violence entangles Joan Crawford in a head-lopping film titled Strait-Jacket, a William Castle vehicle that serves up so many horror and horrible cliches with numerous disembodied noggins that the result is unintentional comedy." So it's kind of interesting that, like, a contemporary review from the time was treating it as, not something to be taken seriously, which I think, as you mentioned, Joseph, I think it's fair. I think something can be campy and fun and still be a good movie. And I think this is it's not going to win any Oscars for high drama, but it is very successful what it sets out to do, which is entertain. It did notice that more heads rolled in Strait-Jacket than the French Revolution, which was at least kind of piffy. William Castle was obviously noted for his use of gimmicks for films. So in Homicidal, which came out a few years before this, which kind of inspired by the success of Psycho, there was famously a fright break with a timer sort of counting down to the film's kind of exciting climax as the heroine approaches the house where the killer lurks. So with the follow-up to this, he did Joan Crawford's "I Saw What You Did," which was remade in the 1980s with Shawnee Smith, sorry, yeah. And they apparently they kind of promoted that with giant plastic telephones, but then they got loads of complaints because people were kind of sort of phoning up and sort of saying terrible things like this. So any other background?
Toya smelly.
So they put a stop to that because it was causing too much mayhem.
Who played that?
What? I didn't hear anything, Erik. So just to sort of mention about the a little bit more about the so-called psychobiddy or hagsploitation movies, or the Grand Dame Gougonal, which kind of followed from this. So I mean, pretty much anyone who was anyone, or even people like Elizabeth Taylor did kind of what could be loosely termed as hagsploitation movies. They went on, but as I mentioned, Joan Crawford pulled out of Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte and was replaced by Olivia de Havilland. But Tallulah Bankhead was in Fanatic with Stephanie Powers. And of course, Betty Davis went on to do Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte and also Dead Ringer, which is a lot of fun. But there was also loads of like Whatever Happened to Aunt Alice with Geraldine Page and Ruth Gordon. What's the Matter with Helen with Shelley Winters and Debbie Reynolds. Whoever Slew Auntie Roo with Shelley Winters. And of course, Shelley Winters went on to be in all manner of horror movies going through to the 1970s. Well, wasn't she in The Initiation of Sarah? Wasn't she the house mother in that?
I'm pretty sure she was, yeah.
Yeah, so... the last thing I was going to mention is, I don't know if you've seen the TV show Feud, where it shows the fictionalized feuding between Betty Davis and Joan Crawford, which came out a few years ago with Susan Sarandon and God, what's her name? That other actress' name slipped my mind.
I love slipped my mind in that last movie I saw her in.
Yeah, well, she's very good in that. But they said that they recreated the scene in this because apparently William Castle was told, and now he's got Joan Crawford, the real film star, not to have any gimmicks. And at the last minute, he kind of decided he couldn't stop himself, so he paid for loads of cardboard axes to be printed. And Joan Crawford, who had put money into the movie, went along on a promotional tour, and he persuaded to walk out on stage with an axe, wearing a ball gown. So, and this, of course, all predates the whole Mommy Dearest thing with Christina Fetch Me the Axe stuff, which may or may not have actually happened in real life.
Hey, Justin, do you know what the budget was on this? Because one thing I did read and I forgot to mention was that Joan Crawford agreed to do this movie on the stipulation that she be paid $50,000 and a percentage of the profits. So I'm wondering how much they actually had to pay out of the budget for her.
I don't know, because I know the film made at the time it was made over 5 million in rentals. So I kind of guess she probably was quite a wily businesswoman, so she kind of probably made quite a lot of money on it. But I didn't find a budget for it. But it's kind of handsomely shot. But of course, most of it was kind of small. It's a small scale film, isn't it? In so much there's not like big sets or like kind of expensive loads of extras and things like that. So I imagine also William Castle was kind of a bit of a king of a bit of a Roger Corman about sort of turning tight budgets into box office bonanzas. So okay, well, let's see, what was the consensus on the group on this?
Well, I expected a lot more for Strait-Jacket. We only had 11 comments, sadly, but Aura Alishan writes, I adore Strait-Jacket and selected it as a listener pick many years ago. Whether this episode is the result of that long-forgotten pick or purely a coincidence, I am incredibly excited to hear your thoughts. Now, Aura, I think you had one more listener pick. If you want to email me that, I'll be glad to add it to the list because those old listener picks were on an old laptop that got kind of destroyed. So I don't quite remember what the other one was you picked, but glad we are finally covering Strait-Jacket. And Billy Vadrine says, one of the best proto-slashers to come in the wake of Psycho. I love the black and white cinematography and the crazy ending with the unmasking of the killer. I think I prefer Homicidal from William Castle a bit more, though. So not a lot of comments, but nothing bad to say either. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram to stay up to date on all that we're doing. Listen on Amazon, Apple, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, and about 1 billion other podcatchers, both good and bad. Join us on Patreon for as little as $1 per month, or select a tier that fits your budget. The $5 one, because you get to hear the commentaries. In return, we have nearly 200 exclusive episodes at the ready. That's patreon.com/The Hysteria Continues, all one word. And the same goes for our email address, thehysteriacontinues@gmail.com.
Excellent. Yeah, please, do join us over there. We had a lot of fun recording the Prowler commentary. So looking forward to getting that out to you guys. So one thing we're not necessarily looking forward to is...
It's my joke of the week. It's so bright and fantastic.
Why did William Castle swear so much? William Castle, why did he swear so much? Because he had Tourette's syndrome.
Oh my God.
I was going to play this, but I won't. So any other background?
Toya is smelly.
How
rude. He says he won't.
Yeah, I know.
So, okay. Right. Well, we have some feedback, don't we?
We do.
All of us have feedback. Wow.
Who would like to go first?
I'll go.
Okay.
This says, greetings, Hysteria Continues. Excited to hear your episode on Evil Speak. We're going to be recording that next. That's for Patreon coming up next month, I believe it is. Clint Howard once came into a place I used to work, and before he left, I told him I love Evil Speak. He smiled. Wow, no one ever brings that one up. I had a lot of fun making that. Love that one too. Thank you. Just a quick interaction, but it's such a cool one. It's always great when actors still love the movies that we love them in. Keep up the great work. And that's from Mike Connolly. Thank you, Mike.
Cool. I have one here from Alex Borenstein. And Alex says, I'll keep it short and sweet. In a recent episode, it was teased that you would cover Wacko soon. That's one of my friend group's favorite movies. My name on Facebook was Tony Schlangini. Schlangini for a few years. Please be gentle with it. I also have to mention that I finally saw Carry On Camping for the first time, and it made me think about those classic sound clips that need to make a comeback. Please insert more sexual innuendo. I can't even read this sentence. Sorry. Please insert more sexual innuendos if at all possible. Justin, do you still have your old clips of
no.
Kenneth Williams? No,
I can get them back. But yes, it's the first time I've heard you struggle so much in your mouth, Erik. Nathan, do you have something for us?
I do. All right. This is from Daniel. It says, leave Erik alone.
Yay!
He sweats blood for his jokes of the week.
I do.
They're no laughing matter. Then he goes on to say, Justin Kurswell, he a goth, he cobweb, covered in moth. Obviously, this refers to or ethically produced vegan cobwebs and vegan moths. Is there such a thing as a vegan moth?
I don't know. Well, actually, funnily enough, it's weird. I know I'm leading myself into something from Erik here, but we actually we had moths in the cupboard today. So we had to shoo them out and put bay leaves in to put them off.
How did you shoo them out?
Well, just kind of opened the cupboard and got everything out and sort of shooed them out and letting them fly away. So, but anyway, I thank you, Daniel. I did like that little quip about Erik's.
I like the poem about Justin being a stupid goth. That was my favourite bit.
Is it? Yes, but of course. So anyway, I have one here, and it's a bit of a longer one. It says, "Hello again, you bloody fine chaps. In the Final Destination 2 episode, great mates, you read out my last email about Driller Killer and Bridge to Nowhere, and afterward mentioned a couple of New Zealand horror movies, Mr. Wrong and The Lost Tribe. To put to rest any confusion and possible consequential disappointment, they aren't slasher movies. Mr. Wrong is often wrongly described as a direct response to slasher movies, and it isn't quite that. Whatever criticism it has of the slasher genre is only part of a much broader critique of the treatment of women in media. Specifically, writer-director Gayleen Preston told me that the film came about because she was annoyed by the offhand or disinterested way that local news media reported the disappearance of women in the 1970s and 80s. Add to that, having spoken to her a few times now, while I doubt she'd be listing her favourite 80s slashers, she doesn't at all come across as an anti-horror genre snob. The Lost Tribe isn't a slasher movie either, sorry. It's a psychological horror about a guy who goes mad trying to find his lost identical twin in Milford Sound. It's tied up with the story of a Maori tribe who were all but wiped out 400 years ago by survivors rumoured to still be living in the Sound. It's a flawed but excellent movie that has slightly mysterious making of that I'm hoping to find answers to as I continue my research. They're available to rent in New Zealand on Film on Demand. Anyway, cheers fellas, keep up the good work. Simon Kingsley Holmes."
Now, Justin, didn't you review Mr. Wrong for Hysteria Lives?
I did, yes. I didn't mean to look back at my review of it. I mean, I think it has enough of the elements to kind of fit into Hysteria Lives. But certainly I take on board what Simon says about it. At the time, it definitely felt like a kind of riposte to American slasher movies. So it'd be interesting to revisit it. But he does say, "P.S. You'll be pleased to hear that Alan Dale will be getting a mention in my book, as he's from Dunedin, New Zealand. Gives me an excuse to buy that new Umbrella Blu-ray of Houseboat Horror." So thank you, Simon, and look forward to your book on New Zealand horror. So I'm sure it'll be a cracker.
It'll be young, cool and groovy.
I'm sure it will be, yes. So I guess that only leaves us to decide what we're covering next time. So whose choice is it?
It is mine, and I've chosen Psycho 3.
Oh.
Sounds good.
Hey, watch the guitar.
Well, we're playing out with, and I think I've done this before, but just to to please Erik, playing out with Christine by Susan the Banshees. What, Erik?
Now she's in purple, now she's a turtle. Ooh, what a great lyric.
Yeah, well, you know what it's about, don't you, the song?
It's about some schizophrenic person who thinks she's a turtle 1 minute and then she's purple.
Well, exactly. It's inspired by the book The Three Faces of Eve, which relates to the story of Christine Sizemore, a woman who reportedly had 22 different personalities. So it kind of fits in with this movie, although Lucy Harbin only has 2.
Tenuous.
Well, thank you. So we'll play out with that, and we'll catch you next time on Hysteria Continues. So thank you for listening, and say goodbye to the good people.
Bye.
Farewell.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Now she's in purple, now she's a turtle, disintegrating.